welcome to the Auto Remarketing Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Overby, Senior Editor of Auto Remarketing, and joining me today are the folks behind Automotive State of the Union, better known as ASOTU, and we have Paul Daly, Kyle Montsier, and Michael Cirillo, and they all happen to have excellent facial hair, so they're part of the beard club here with me. We need a sponsorship by some kind of beard balm out there, but fellas, we've crossed paths a bunch at conferences, but this is the first time we've had y'all on the Auto Remarketing Podcast, so welcome and thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Excited to hang out. It'll be good.
I know it very much. And if we're going to pick a brand, let's go with Honest Amish Beard Balm.
Honest
That's what
Amish. Okay,
I
like it.
Amish.
Are you
Actually,
sponsored, Paul?
what was that?
Are you sponsored?
Working on it.
Oh, okay.
He's like honest Amish.
I don't know what the headquarters is, and I'm sure it's probably just some random like warehouse in New York City. But in my mind, I have to walk down a trail where there are no power lines and go speak to Eliezer Stoltzfus about a sponsorship deal.
Well, if they can help me like tame some of these strays,
I'll tell you what, Honest Amish, it's a good brand. I've like literally been on it for like 4 years now. I've never gone back.
He's on it like a supplement.
Can't
legit always looking for new beard balms because
Amazon because they have all my data and my usage at this point. They know exactly when to suggest it. Every time they suggest like, hey, do you want to buy this again? I'm like, yes, I do want to buy this again. And it's always like 6:30 in the morning. I'm like,
they've got a picture of you hanging in their office and it just says power applier. They're like every 24 days.
All right.
Joe's already writing a note. He's like, and first and last time
guys,
we'll have them.
No. Well, I mentioned in the outset, that we've run across each other at conferences, and one of those was y'all's last year in Maryland, the ASOTU Con, and I know that you guys are getting ready for that, and we'll definitely get into that. But wanted to, for our listeners and viewers who are kind of just getting to know you guys, or maybe going to the conference for the first time, want to get the superhero origin story of ASOTU as a media brand, and what was the idea behind sort of launching a new media company in today's day and age? I mean, I know it's been a few years, but sort of that initial launch, what was the inspiration for it?
I mean, the beginning of it really just came out of necessity and a need that I saw that the industry had. Lockdowns just began during COVID, and I was on calls with dealers all over the country because I was working with my agency, and like everyone just seemed to feel better when they were on Zoom calls with one another, and everyone was even trying to figure out how to use Zoom. A lot of dealer principals were like, what is this video call thing? It's hard to think about now, but that's the situation. And so I was just brushing my teeth one night and I was like, well, how can we get people, like, how can I help scale that feeling in the industry? And so I just thought I'm going to have a live stream on LinkedIn. LinkedIn Live was just starting, and I'm going to call it something official so I can trick people into showing up. And that was Automotive State of the Union. I had a designer make a logo that looked like the presidential State of the Union with stars that flew in. It was amazing. And thousands of people showed up. I still get people telling stories about how they were in their training rooms and things with a bunch of people watching this live stream. It was a 4-hour live stream. I didn't get up from the desk once. I was just sipping the water, just sip it at that point. And little by little, we kept having those. And then we just kind of like understood that there is a real need here for this angle of the industry. And that is the angle that believes that thriving people are at the center of the thriving industry that we do have. Kyle and I met, we had this idea, what if we raise some money from dealers only? And we just started producing more of that content, and all our angle, like every company has their angle, and ours is the human first angle. And just like, that's where the data unlocks come. That's where the insights come out. That's where the best practices come out through the human lane. So that's kind of the origin of it. We started having events, and this is going to be our 4th ASOTU Con. And so that was kind of the beginning. So we're a real COVID story.
Nice. Well, it's always cool to see positive stories like that come out of COVID, and it took a while for everybody to get used to Zoom, but it's kind of second nature now, I guess. But
look at us now.
It's like too much almost, you know?
For sure.
And Michael, I know you've spoken at our conference before and done some dealer training at our conference, actually our Canada's Used Car Week conference. But how did you connect with these guys for to join their team?
I think it really started from all of us producing content, and I think watching each other from each other's sidelines, we're like like our creative styles there's a lot of similarities, and I think it actually started one day. Paul and I connected somehow and jumped on a Zoom call, and he met my dad. My dad was in my office, and we just talked shop. And then, then Kyle and I connected, and Kyle's like, you say things kind of the way I say things. And I was like, you say things kind of the way I say things. And then we'd go our ways, and then COVID happened, and then we'd reconnect. And ultimately, once I think Paul and Kyle discovered, hey, this is a real legitimate thing, and there are people in our industry that are cleaving to this or craving it. They approached me and they said, hey, we share a lot of the same values. We see things from, similar angles. Would you like to have a more intentional part in this? And of course, it just makes sense to me. It kind of is a proof point to the thesis that we all desire connection, and we desire to be connected with others who feel or think or value the same things. And so it was just it was a match made in heaven, guys.
What he's explaining in real life for the kids out there is the Spider-Man meme where they're like the three Spider-Mans pointing at one another. You say it that way. Yeah, that's kind of how it is with beards.
That was it. That's for sure.
With beards, though.
Yeah.
Well, as y'all grew the company, coming out of COVID, what have been some of the, I guess, as you look at the broader media landscape, even outside of automotive, what have been some of the media brands, podcasters, news organizations, maybe outside the auto industry that sort of resonated with you? Like, oh, they do it this way. I wonder if we could take that to automotive.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the ones that was like a very early comparison back in the day was Morning Brew, right? And it was just the way they delivered a real talk, delivery method of the day's news. And we thought that we could own kind of that lane and that voice in the industry, and just kind of keeping it short, concise, plain talk. We even had a section in our early email that was like, what the kids are into. And because I have kids that they're getting older now, like 4 years later. At the time, though, it was like 15, 11, 9. And so like we thought that was even relevant to have people thinking a little bit outside automotive and thinking a little more like retail, a little bit more like culture. So I'm going to put that. I mean, that was kind of the low hanging fruit, Kyle. I'm going to leave you with the harder.
Yeah, you had to go with the easy one.
Like Fast Company.
Yeah, Fast Company. We, what they've been doing, some of like what the Athletic has moved into, and what they've we've been watching a lot of like what they've moved into. Obviously, like content brands like a Mr. Beast or anyone like that. And then from an events perspective, really looking at like South by Southwest, VCon, for an activation mindset into the type of connection and community building that those, like both of those, and then even some others that are out there that have said like this community does these things and they do it throughout the year together. They talk about these things, and then it just so happens they end up in the same place in over 3 days. That's been a big influence to kind of watch how they activate, what their stages look like, what their conversations look like, how they attract different talent, from outside of their immediate circle of influence, right, for the conversations. And we do that, whether it be the morning show, like, this morning we're talking about Chipotle on the morning show because there's something that we can draft on from what Chipotle's learning into the retail auto industry, right?
Kyle just wanted an excuse to play the Sebastian Maniscalco.
That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted.
That's which we did, by the way.
There's another aspect, Joe, here, which is like lately we've really kind of realized too. You'll probably see this. I mean, if you watch YouTube or you follow podcasts, there are groupings of individuals who are like-minded and like I said, share similar values. And we see it a lot with comedians, that, you know, that guy will be on that guy's show and that guy will be on that guy's show. And there's this web of connectivity. Well, when you pull that out, when you zoom out from that, that is kind of what we're aiming to build with the community of ASOTU More Than Cars, which is that, you know, we can facilitate conversations, meaningful, impactful conversations that connect or plug people into kind of a bigger picture that has them then going back to their operation, whether they're allied industry or dealers, thinking, you know, I've been looking at the bottle this way, but wow, that really encouraged me to flip it around and view things from a different vantage point. And I think that's a lot of fun with what we do, and just trying to make things as practical and tangible as possible and feel like a warm blanket fresh out of the dryer. You know what I mean? Like, we felt good leaving that event or consuming that content. And so that's something we think about a lot too.
Yeah. And honestly, we really one day will be seen in the same light as the Smartless podcast.
Oh,
that's
man,
really
love those guys. That's my wife and I's number one podcast. Listen to it every week.
It's so good. It's so
Shepard, and it's
one day Michael Cirillo will be funny enough. You know,
how can we make a living making fools of ourselves?
It's to go from what we think people feel right now, which is whelmed, to just one step above, you know, 1% better.
Well, to take, you know, another example of a media company that I've seen some similarities and some of the, just from an outsider's viewpoint, you know, you guys are probably familiar with The Ringer, Bill Simmons' network of podcasts. And it started with one core idea of Bill Simmons being this like pop culture and sports expert aficionado, and then sort of bringing other people who could really focus in on. They have a guy they have a TV show podcast and a movie podcast and a NFL podcast and a golf podcast. So they bringing in people who can specialize. Have you all modeled that a little bit, like where you bring in other team members to say, okay, today we're going to do, you know, a podcast on X topic within retail automotive?
No, but that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Well, I do.
We've gotten close. We're close. We're almost there. Just hang with us.
Yeah, unintentionally, I think, right? So you think about, you know, the Dealer Playbook. That's one of our shows on our network now. That's something I started all the way over in Canada years ago, right? And the whole premise of that show was to find the answer to the question of what creates thriving dealerships and what separates them from those that perpetually struggle, right? So there's my angle. Paul is a branding genius, and he sees things from a very creative lens. And so he talks about that from that angle. Kyle, I am convinced you will not meet someone who can process and compute technology and tech stacks and integration into operation better than him. And so even when we do podcasts like this together or on Auto Collabs, which is another one of our shows, each of our lines of questioning, almost it's kind of the connection of those three things, right? And then we go off and we have our separate things that are part of the network. But intentionally, Bill Simmons, no. Unintentionally, subconsciously, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
and now the four of us, our new ASOTU show called the Beard Bomb, Amish Beard Bomb Guys, or whatever his brand is.
Beard Bombs.
Beard Bomb Bombs.
The Beard Bomb Bombs.
Well, that's a 1993 cover band is what that is.
Oh, yeah. Coming soon to an ASOTUCon near you.
A solid air piano.
It is kind of set up like the room in that in the casino, the like theater area. It's almost set up like a rock concert.
It is. That's one of the reasons we loved it, and that's one of the reasons it's so hard for us to find another venue, because we're gonna outgrow it this year. I mean, last year we had just over 500, which the year before we was like 325. This year, we're probably going to be tracking between 650 and 700. And I mean, you could have a much larger concert in there, but if you use all the mezzanine seats, but it's an auto conference, so there's tables and chairs, and you have to feed everybody. We started looking, saying, okay, where's the SodaCon 2026 going to be? And boy, is it hard to find a venue that checks all the boxes that this one does, because we like the fact that it feels like a concert venue, because there's something that happens, like even mentally, when you get in a space that is different than what you're used to when you go to a conference or you go into a breakout room and it's, manila covered air walls and, a little projector up front, right? Your brain just subconsciously goes into a predisposed mode of like, this is how I'm going to behave and feel and act in this room. So our whole effort in producing the show like we do, thinking that you can get people, you interrupt the pattern that their head has already programmed about a conference, and then if they can be inspired, we had this conversation. I can't remember which show we were doing this on, but maybe was it Eric? I don't remember who it was. Maybe Eric Flo, but he was talking about the difference between inspiration and motivation.
Yeah.
It was, and actually, I think it was just a conversation. It wasn't on.
It was just a combo.
It's just a conversation. But he's talking about inspiration and motivation, and which one is more powerful. Like, well, motivation typically has a stick or a carrot attached.
Oh no, that was Errol. That's who it
Yeah,
was.
that's
It was
Errol.
Errol.
Oh, it's Errol.
That
Errol
was Errol.
Beaumont. Do you know Errol?
Good.
He hosts the live stage at NADA.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna be at a SodaCon. But we were talking about inspiration, motivation, and motivation usually has a carrot or a stick or both. And inspiration is something that like you don't get to control. Like you just get inspired. So the space and the production, that's so important to us, because we feel like what's the ROI of an inspired GM or an inspired marketing manager or an inspired F&I director? And so I think sometimes people might get the wrong idea about a SodaCon, that it is just about the production, but basically the production and the hats and the swag is a gateway to inspire people, so then they can absorb the actual conversations and best practices that happen. So, which is back to your question, it's like that's why we picked that venue, and that's why it's really hard to find another one.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine too that like the venue itself, sort of the way I haven't seen a conference laid out like that, where you walk in, you have the swag shop, and then you have the podcast stage, like expo hall, and for lack of a better word, the workshop rooms, if you will, all kind of immersed together. Was that something y'all went in there with the intention of doing that, or did the space kind of just facilitate it?
Well, it's funny. Like the first year we actually messed up. Like we thought we had it nailed, right? Like the space has like 9 different ways of configuring it. And the first year we totally jacked it up. And so we went back to the drawing board the second year we were there. And really, like the goal was to get people close, right? Because connection is a key word that we have whenever we're talking, right? We talked about that. Like this is just people connecting. And the faster we can ensure connection happens, the more we know will get produced, right? Whether that be someone buying something or a new technology or a new idea, or like coming off a stage and not losing that person or losing that conversation because like you have to run halfway across the country to get to the next thing. And so we just intentionally, we were like, how do we foster connection? And that's why like the space kind of operates in the way that it does. And we kind of shut down avenues to get outside of it. And the food is all right there, and like everyone kind of like is always bumping shoulders, and I think it actually fosters like a speed of conversation that you don't get when you have to be like, okay, good chat, I've got a 3-hour walk to my next thing,
to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle's really been the mastermind behind that. He's put a lot of it, and we've tried things over the years. Kyle really has been the champion of how do we craft that experience. There's something about, and we've probably all had this experience in different areas, where you're part of an organization that is into the same stuff, right? And that could be everything from a church group to like Dungeons and Dragons group, go on both opposite ends of the spectrum, or like a Volkswagen van club, right? Or motorcycles, everyone's waving, and you get around people that have this similar core belief, and right from the outset, like you never did that whole thing where you put the body armor on because you're like afraid of who to talk to. And a SodaCon is an environment. One of the reasons we get away with keeping everybody that close is that everyone knows when you show up there, whether you're an industry partner or whether you're a dealer, your objective isn't to sell or be sold. Your objective is to get to know the other people because we're trying to do this thing in the auto retail industry together. And that's the comment we get time and time again. Last year, probably the best compliment I could have ever gotten came from somebody I didn't know who got invited as part of the Maryland Dealer Association position there. And I didn't recognize him. I don't even think he knew who I was, like in relation to a SodaCon, which like, he was fresh, right? And he says, you know, we started talking and he found out who, like, I was like, oh yeah, I founded ASOTU. He's like, oh, I was like, let me tell you this. He goes, a lot of people say they have like a culture. He's like, you actually have one here. He's like, everyone says the environment, and he said that, and I was like, this is the best. He's like, right out of the gate, he's like, I just feel like I can talk to everybody. I don't have to cover my badge, right, and let people know I'm a dealer. And so that we feel like if we pay attention to those things, that everything else falls into place.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you, I guess, get people to buy in to the how do you get people to buy in to the fact that they shouldn't be like selling or looking to be sold, that it is a conference for connecting versus, hey, we're gonna pitch my product here?
Well, actually, what we actually encourage is we encourage people to pitch their product and for others to listen, because the speed of innovation happens when you know more about that thing. And I think that actually when we naturally encourage that with a common core thesis, right? We always come back to like thriving people, thriving profits, thriving people, thriving profits, more than cars, right? Like, hey, connection is a currency you can hold and feel, because if you're connected, then you can like progress, you can do cool things. And so what actually happens is like more transactions happen because people are more willing to have their eyes and ears open to what the other person needs and not what they need. And then right after that, it's like we've heard there's a whole new product set that like happened with the two partners and a dealer because of a conversation that came out of one of the panels, right? Because they were all open to it. There was a fresh mindset around like what a pitch and what a listening is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we dissuade coercive sales pitching. We encourage connective innovation, right?
That's a good way to put it.
And it's just a different approach. It's like, and words matter, right? Like, you like when learning how to teach kids, right? We encourage like coaches and teachers to like use their words carefully, and that's with adults too. And so when Paul and I and Michael get on the stage in the first 15 minutes of the event, like it's in the setup, it's in the communications prior to it. If you're coming, you get this email that like is crafted around thriving people. And so it's like you just find the others, and all of a sudden you've wound up in a place where the others are with you.
There's an Joe, you know this better than anybody, is that when you see a moment when your audience comes together and you're in person, you realize that you can't just have that event. Like the reason that people carry the perceptions and the ideas and mentalities, because you spend the other 363 days connecting with them, letting them know who you are, letting them know what you believe. And so I think one of the big differentiators out of SodaCon when people get there, both industry partners, and granted, I feel like always, right? Industry partners are spending a lot of money to get in front of the high quality audience that we've assembled and we cultivate 363 days of the year, to get to this SodaCon event. And so naturally, it's like they're worried about how many people, how many dealers are going to be there, and it's just human nature that you forget the advice you give your clients on. It's not about how many leads you have. It's about the quality of the leads. It's about who's actually ready to buy and who's in market, right? And so we feel like when we get to a SodaCon, the quality of the people, like obviously we don't have as many people as NADA, but I do think we have probably the next largest amount of dealers at a SodaCon as in any other event in the industry. But the reality is, the benefit is they are minded, they're open-minded when they're there. They are fully in consideration, willing to listen to what the other people who are also part of this community are saying. So again, I think they want to be pitched. They don't want to be coercively pitched into it. And so I think that that's what happens, and that's what goes down into soda.
I was on a call this morning with a dealer. He's like, he literally, he set up half the meeting was just for him to ask me what people he should connect with while he's there. He was like, which pitches should I go listen to? He's like writing it down. So
we literally have pitch stages.
It's like, right? Okay, that's different. Like we all think that nobody wants to be pitched. No, every dealer wants to get better.
To hear them.
Nobody wants to be like, I don't need anything new.
It's our perspective on marketing.
I'm making all the money.
Oh. Right. Nobody wants to go to a timeshare meeting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or feel like it's going to be a timeshare meeting.
Hot dogs are amazing at those.
Yeah. I just think, you know, and this is kind of age old. We know this. It's a lesson that's as long as old as time. If your plan starts with monetization, you're already screwed, right? If it starts with a purpose, and I think that's what's adding to the impact of this event is people understand the purpose is connection, it's impact, it's tangible takeaways, it's, you know, not just getting to hear from the rock star performer, but walking away with their phone number in your phone with exchange text messaging. There's a real tangible purpose that we start with, and then the monetization follows. And you know, I think that rings true with the people that are buying into this. They believe that if they can go and build relationships, the first pitch that they make is themselves. And everything after that seems to flow much more naturally, I think.
Well, and that's why we do it. I mean, that's why Auto Collabs is the type of podcast that it is. That's why we're filming the docuseries More Than Cars, is because we want people to connect with people. I tell the story all the time, Joe. It's the guy in 109, right? It's like, you know, we've all lived in an apartment, and we know the guy in 109, you know, the stinky one, the one that never takes out the trash, the loud one on the weekends, you know, is always, everybody's annoyed with the guy in 109 until the one day when the lady in 106, the guy in 107, and the lady in 108 don't have sugar when you need to make brownies for the people coming over that night. And it just so happens when you knock on 109 and Steve answers the door, totally changes your perspective on him because he has some similar interests to you and is super nice and gave you way more sugar than you maybe needed, and also offered his grandma's recipe to the brownie icing, and like, you're like, wow, Steve is a really cool person. So the next time the person in 107 comes up to you and be like, you can't stand Steve, you're like, oh no, Steve's actually a pretty cool guy. And like, if we can do that, if we can help people be seen and known a lot more, the speed of connection and the speed of conversation is going to be incredible.
I'm not borrowing Steve's sugar. I'm just going to put that one. Steve also has a necklace made out of Cheez-Its.
We don't know that Steve's sugar is actually sugar.
That looks awfully powdery.
Well, you know, one of the things that stuck out to me last year at ASOTU was you guys had, I believe it was some students and recent grads from Northwood that were there and kind of there to learn the ropes and kind of learn more about how to get into the automotive industry. So as folks who are in it, what advice would you have for some of those younger folks who want to start their career in automotive, whether it's at a dealership or one of these industry partners?
That basically there is a place for you to thrive in this industry.
Yeah.
And if whatever your dreams and goals are, even if that is to do something that is not automotive related, the auto industry is a path for you to get there. And there's no ceiling, there's no floor. A good friend of ours, Keelan, I don't know, he's a 40 under 40. He's a dealer general manager. What is it, Louisiana? Where's he from, Kyle?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yep.
And he actually went through like big finance and like was like, oh, I'm gonna go into, like gonna be a partner at a firm. And he just posted on his LinkedIn a few days ago this comparison of the path, the career path. He's like, I actually did that for a while, and then he realized he actually played football at SU too, so obviously a real motivated young man. And he was like, I looked at the career path comparison on like Wall Street finance and the auto industry, and it was staggering how much faster you can move up the ranks in automotive to being a dealer principal and the dollars that you can make all along the way and in that. So I think for those who are like in school, Northwood studying, I think if you compare automotive to any other career path, you're going to see not only is it more beneficial financially, but also your upward mobility. That it's just an abundant.
And we have sales, technicians, managers, accounting, finance, tech entrepreneurs,
Marketing, creative.
engineers, marketing, creative. Like it runs the gamut. So find a place, right?
Yeah,
I think this is like the only industry I can think of where you can make as little as you want and then go to infinity. Like we have multi billion-dollar companies in our industry. And then we've got a solopreneur sitting in his home office making 12 grand a month servicing 2 dealers from a creative. And it's like, where else can you get that range?
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Well, before I let you guys go here before too long, I know some of these topics probably will be discussed at the conference, but what are some of the kind of high level trends that are resonating with y'all, and how do you see them playing out the rest of the year?
Well, Paul's like, there's creative things that I think are happening. And I'm like, well, there's data stuff. And Michael's like, I can't wait for all the leadership stuff. So
yeah.
No, I mean,
Go ahead.
And maybe this is just because it's my perspective. I just think a lot of people are asking questions about data that they weren't asking 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that actually it goes across like culture and leadership and sales and retention and data analysis and all of those type of things. And I think a lot of, with the advent of AI and our understanding that data is a lot bigger than we ever thought it was, but it's also smaller than we ever thought it was at the same time. People are just intrigued as to what's available to help them make decisions, right? Can I make a better decision about how to talk to this person? Can I make a better decision about what creative to make? Can I make a better decision about my career pathing for my employees? Can I make a better decision about my marketing? And that comes back to like how the data of your organization is structured, what's available to models or to your managers or to your employees to make the best next decision, right? To take their gut instinct, pair it with data, and move next. And I think a lot of the conversations will be around that, right? Like how do we take the things that we know, to the data that we know, enhance them and inject them into our business for profitability, efficiency, culture, leadership, connection, all of those types of things.
Very good.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to add anything to that. That was perfect.
That was perfect.
No, I think that maybe not as like progressive and fast moving at that is that I do think that dealerships, large groups are finding themselves in a position of trying to make themselves the very best place to work. And we're starting to see more and more of those popping out where we're seeing them dealer groups winning best place to work, not on a dealer list,
right?
On an everywhere list. And so I do think that this like the competition for talent, realizing that like, okay, AI is going to help us like do a lot of low level things, but the actual high level quality people who are motivated, who want to grow, who want to believe in what they do, that competition for talent is still very strong. And there's just an inherent desire in so many dealers to just feel good about the place that they are and how they provide for their people. So we're gonna have a lot of those conversations as well. And we try to aggregate. I think we do just naturally attract the people who believe that way. And I think about it the same way I think about Olympic athletes. Like everyone else looks at them and says, well, look at them. They're crazy. They wake up at 4 a.m. They work out for 2 hours before school. They eat this crazy diet. They have this intense amount of focus for maybe the hopes that they will, qualify and be able to, perform at this level. Everyone else thinks they're crazy, but to them, the other Olympic athletes, like, this is just normal, right? So I think that the group of people want to normalize those types of things as far as the place they are to work. And so I think that that's always there, even though it's not as like cutting edge and breaking. I do think it's one of the most meaningful.
Well, think about this. I want to add this thought. You'll find at ASOTUCon that we're not speaking in a reactionary way. There's enough material out there to say, well, like, how do I react to the thing that's going to be over in the next month, right? We tend to anticipate a lot. We have a lot of anticipatory conversations. Joe, I don't know if you remember this. In fact, you brought it up. I spoke at your event. I think it was 2019. Mm-hmm. And Paul Cow, this might be kind of funny. I spoke about how we can anticipate unforeseen circumstances and hedge against them and shore up against them. And then months later, the pandemic happened.
Oh, you're a visionary, Michael. You're a visionary.
It's not so much that as it is like, what occupies our mind space,
That's
right?
Literally the reality. It doesn't matter.
It's reality. Something is always coming. Yeah. And so, we can talk about, and I'm going to throw it out there. We can talk about tariffs till we're blue in the face. The problem is, by the time anyone shores up against an action plan there, something will have changed.
Yep.
So what Paul's talking about, what Kyle's talking about, these are things that are not just happening now, but are continuing to evolve. So we like to lean into the future and say, hey, let's have a moment of what if and what could we versus how should I have,
like that.
And I think that's a real critical component of why people are choosing to come into this community and why they watch the news every morning and why they're getting involved and coming to ASOTUCon. So that's my 2 bits.
Good. Those 2 good bits right there.
Well, that is a good place as any to close up shop here. But guys, thank y'all so much for being on the show. It's great to finally have you on the podcast, and always good seeing you and talking with y'all.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Auto Remarketing Podcast. My thanks to the guys at ASOTU. I'm Joe Overby. Thanks for tuning in.